Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're all well. Mind Unveiled is the name of the channel. 349,000 subscribers. Cabbage Patch Kids. The video is called Repopulation Postcards. Cabbage Patch Kids. 1800s cloning Babylon babies. I mean, it's getting real fucked up, to be honest, this whole affair. But I'm sure anybody my age or older, probably even, I don't know how long it's went on, but I'm sure you've heard of the Cabbage Patch Kids. I certainly have. Something that was very popular in the 1980s and possibly before. Again, I don't know if it's still a thing that's going today and as popular as it was. But it was definitely a thing that exists. The Cabbage Patch Kids, I remember it very clearly. So, the plot very much thickens here on this whole Cabbage Patch Kids thing. And again, this will be the first video in a series of videos talking about these Cabbage Patch Kids and where it come from and what it means, and is it linked to 1800s cloning, and did something happen, and this links into sort of Tartaria and a lost civilization, or some sort of cataclysm has happened, a mud flood or something, we do not know. Orphans, orphan trains, mental asylums. There's some story here in some form. Again, the world fairs, the American world fairs, which I showed a video of buildings that seem far, far too elaborate and well built and technical and all these things. I mean, if you watch the rest of that video, because it was a lot longer than I showed it, but there's a lot more in it as well. That's the other side. I wondered whether to do a part two of the video, because it shows a lot more, and it shows electric and electric lights and things lit up beyond belief with 50,000 light bulbs. This is in like the 1800s. There's loads of stuff in it, to be honest. And again, I would recommend go and watching the rest of it, but I'll maybe cover the rest of the video someday. Anyhow, just here's a video to the right. An orphan train rider tells his story. So, yeah, there's these orphan trains and large asylums, mental asylums at the time as well. And it all kind of connects together. And in the back of it all, we've got this Cabbage Patch Kids crack as well. It's all a bit mental, to be honest. It's all a bit mental. But, I mean, we've even got a Vice video here as well. The Secret History of Cabbage Patch Kids. So I don't know where that's going from Vice. But Vice got bought out by somebody and it all went to shit. And Vice was real good to start with, and then some big corporation bought Vice. It got enveloped into the fucking agenda. And it went to shit from there and didn't really tell you the truth like it used to, so I'll take it with a pinch of salt, but I'll maybe give that a watch. Anyway, repopulation postcards, Cabbage Patch Kids. So, I don't know if this person's going to tell us about the Cabbage Patch Kid. I've got videos that he's going to tell you in more detail what's going on with these Cabbage Patch Kids. But this is just the first video, and postcards from the early 1900s, all depicting Cabbage Patch Kids and stalks. It's all a bit weird, but this is just sort of proof of, well, there was some sort of fascination with them at some point in time for some reason. And again, this is a thing that exists in the 1980s still, the Cabbage Patch Kids. Where did it come from? What does it mean? So let's have a look at this.
Search on Old World Photoshop, we began to notice a trend with old postcards from the 1900s showing early examples of compositing. There isn't much information on these. If there's a catalog, it's not easy to come by. But many of these are early examples of photo manipulation. They had surreal, real photo postcards, in which they would attempt to trick people with the illusion of photography. As we continued to look through these old postcards, a very strange and unsettling trend started to become apparent. It began with just simple baby postcards. At first thought, it seems like any ordinary postcard. But as with the Same Sky postcard mystery, where the author began to see a trend of a variety of postcards, well, there's a category of postcards that deserves its own name and label, but it doesn't seem very well known, as there are no websites or videos explaining this topic. We shall call it History of the Repopulation Postcards. There are other names for this style, such as baby postcards. By the end of this video, you'll be shocked at how many of these there are. We're talking in the thousands. We found one reference to what these cards were in a book on Amazon named Babylon, Surreal Babies, in which the author describes these same peculiar 1900s postcards and how they were deeply influential to many famous artists, including Salvador Dali. Yet, the author even admits that little is known of their history. In order to understand why we've labeled them repopulation postcards, a thorough understanding of resets, Tartaria, orphan trains, incubators, asylums, and oddfellows will be necessary.
Yeah. So again, I've been looking at this for a while, and it's not a 100% connection in terms of anything's ultimately been proved, but there is definitely some sort of connection between asylums and orphan trains, and whether these orphans came from people put in asylums could be an option. Orphans from possible wars or viruses, or the potato famine in Ireland, or all these kind of things that happen in history. There is possibilities from where these kids came from, but what's everything to do with the Cabbage Patch Kids? There's definitely something to do with cabbages and again Patch Kids and all these sort of postcards depicting lots of children from the early 1900s, as if they're sort of reminiscing a time gone by where something happened maybe, and loads of kids were repopulated. For what reason? It's not completely clear yet. But yeah, there's just this whole. I mean, there's more to this. Again, in other videos, I will develop this idea of the Cabbage Patch Kids, and more people will enter the fray with more information. So this is just postcards at the minute. I mean, it's not damning evidence in any way, shape, or form. But just there's some sort of thing going on here with the Cabbage Patch Kids, with postcards depicting lots of kids, orphan trains, mental asylums, talks of resets. Now, where that comes into play is we've heard that in very, very modern times since COVID, the Great Reset, the global reset. We've heard that phrase coined quite a lot since COVID. So what is a reset? Specifically, what does it mean? We're in a very much time of trouble here on planet Earth in many ways, and there's talk of a reset. So has this happened before? Has there been a time of trouble? Did something big happen? Did a lot of people get killed in some way? Was there lots of orphans? Were the orphans repopulated? Was history changed to completely deny this event? I'm not sure, to be honest, but there's definitely something in this somewhere. And again, the American World Fairs, were they built by other people that all perished, and these are the kids? And I don't know, but there's definite mystery here, and certain little things don't quite make sense or stand out. And yeah, it's a fucking crazy one, to be honest. But I do love some crazy shit as well. That's the truth of it. I do love a investigation into mental stuff. So this is what this is. So the Cabbage Patch Kids is where we're at. Again, we'll listen to some more of this and look at some more postcards.
These cards depict babies being grown. There are many different styles within this category. One of the most interesting is the Cabbage Patch Babies, a variety of themes involving growing babies.
So, there's the notion, and again, it says in the title of the video, 1800s cloning. So, where are we at with that idea? Well, again, technology-wise, you would think that this isn't possible due to. I mean, we could do it very much now. I believe. Again, we've cloned Dolly the sheep. I believe that was in like the 90s or the 80s or something. So we can definitely clone things. We could definitely clone humans if we wanted to, because we can have done plenty of other animals. There's no reason why we couldn't do humans. The reason given is it's not ethical. Would you own that person? You wouldn't be their parent specifically, but you'd paid to have them made. So would you own them or what? It opens up a world of fucking questions, to be honest. So it's kind of banned unofficially, but it's probably been done by all these evil fucking companies we all know of. I wouldn't imagine. I would imagine maybe even governments, specifically the American government, have probably done this. Governments have probably done it and cloned people, and it's probably been done in modern times. But could we do it in the 1800s? And you would suggest not, to be honest. You would absolutely suggest not due to technology. But there's a whole talk of this Tartaria, these world fairs, and having some sort of technology that we were unaware of that's been hidden in some way. That this civilization that's possibly perished. I don't personally know, but did they have a technology that again we did not have, and as a lot of our technology sprung from what they knew in many ways, we just back engineered it, and it's took time, but we've figured out electricity and all these other things, and such forth and so on. I don't know. Again, I don't know. There's definitely some sort of mystery here. The early 1800s, something going on yet again with orphan trains and asylums and mud floods, and Tartaria's got a mention in there, and Cabbage Patch Kids, and it's all fucking mental yet again. But this is where we are. So let's continue.
Babies on plants. Babies on mushrooms. Babies in the water. Babies in a nest. Babies in eggs being hatched. Then the babies arrive on the train.
So yeah, there's the orphan trains kind of depicted in the postcards as well. And all these babies, many postcards of babies, depicting them on trains, which links into the orphan trains. But they're all depicted as being grown or delivered by storks, or just madness, really. But then you've got the whole Cabbage Patch Kids, which has lasted hundreds of years, this whole Cabbage Patch Kids, to be still around in the 1980s and possibly still today. It's still known. Again, anybody my age will have heard of the Cabbage Patch Kids, I would imagine. So it's still known. This is a tale that's lasted the sands of time here and continued to go on. And again, all these pictures of babies being delivered, all being delivered, delivered where, I do not know, but they're all being delivered by various things, here by a bug. Plenty of babies in here as if they've all been manufactured or something in some way. Again, back to cloning, but is cloning possible? But where did all the babies come from? Or is it to do with the asylums? Again, kind of what's trying to be worked out here, but just opening the door to mentioning all of this to you and the Cabbage Patch Kids and the mystery around the Cabbage Patch Kids. So again, there'll be more videos where the plot will definitely thicken. Is what's going to happen here. Initially, this might sound a bit like nonsense, to be honest, but the plot will definitely thicken in later videos.
There's something eerie about these photos, as if someone's trying to tell us something.
We've also got kids in cabbage patches. Does this have anything to do with the Cabbage Patch Kids? So where do babies come from? In the early 1900s, the most common answer given to children would simply be that the stork would bring the babies, or that they were found in a cabbage patch. But why would babies be found in cabbage patches? The legend of the Cabbage Patch Kids involves a young boy named Xavier who meets a mystical fairy bunny bee creature, so a hybrid or chimera, and he follows this bunny bee through a secret tunnel behind a waterfall. On the other side of this waterfall, he finds that babies are being produced in a cabbage patch. The stork, known as Colonel Casey, would then come and pick up the babies. He even has his own uniform. So he's a worker, a soldier, as well as the Cabbage Patch Kids' official historian that would then deliver the babies to their new homes. Not only that, but there's an evil witch named Lavender McDay. She and her weasel and jackrabbit henchmen are literally trying to enslave the Cabbage Patch Kids to be miners to dig for gold in the valley. You can get all the
Miners. So again, like we refer to kids as miners, like again, and I don't mean in a mining sense, but it's funny how there's kind of a dual use of the word there. Kids are miners, but is that word used because they were supposed to be miners? If you get what I mean, kids were used for mining, and that is a known thing in history because kids are smaller, can fit down much like chimney sweeps. Kids were better at it because they were smaller, they could get down the chimney. So again, you take up less room in a mine, we're getting smaller spaces. So yeah, linking into sort of mining, and again, we refer to kids as miners, so there's a bit of a connection there as well. But this is all kind of saying that kids are grown to be miners. Like it's some weird shit going on here, to be honest, as usual.
exposition for the lore in the story through their 10-song album. It goes over how they were created, to the witch, to even a lament about their enslavement. It's pretty dark. The original concept for the cloth dolls was created by Martha Nelson Thomas, and she called them doll babies. And the story really had nothing to do with cabbages or chimeras or witches. It wasn't until Xavier Roberts, or Xavier, like the little boy in the story, hijacked her design that it became what it is today. So I can't help but wonder if Xavier Roberts just came up with the story all on his own. Like, did it come to him from the collective consciousness? Or does he just have a soft spot for child labor? There's actually a place you can go in White County, Georgia, where they do live births, and you can look it up on YouTube to see what I'm talking about. The bunny bee character also is a hybrid creature of two animals that both symbolize rebirth and resurrection on a mass scale. As we know, rabbits reproduce in droves, and the bee symbolism makes me think of a hive, or a queen or source where all the offsprings originate from. It would seem that this is some sort of reference to babies being created in a lab on a mass scale. Why were there so many orphans? Most common answer will be, the baby boom. But this didn't happen until 1946 to 1964. These postcards are from 1890 to 1910, and there's really no explanation for the burst of orphans that we see being brought into the United States, or the amount of orphanages and asylums that exist that no longer seem to be necessary. Could the baby boom narrative be a way to sweep this part?
Yeah, I mean, again, like, especially on the asylum front. I mean, maybe well, probably on the orphanage front as well, to be honest. But there's a there was this massive surge in the 1800s that's gone. Like, where's all the asylums gone now? That we don't have them. You know what I mean? Again, I mentioned this before. Are people not crazy now? Why have we got rid of them? And these asylums were massive, like absolutely massive. Thousands and thousands of people could be held. So, what was going on? Why were we putting everybody in asylums? Like, what was? I'm not saying it's massively even anything to do with this, but what is the reasoning behind all these mental people in the mid 1800s, and again all these orphan trains? It's very mysterious to me. It's absolutely very mysterious. But then you've got all these postcards kind of depicting kids being delivered in many ways, in mass, in big groups. Yeah, it's all very fucked up.
Part of history under the rug? The orphanages were all shut down, and after the 60s, people just stopped having babies and getting married after World War II.
And as well, like in history, we've done a lot of book burning. A lot of book burning's been done here around these parts and around the world and in various countries, etc., etc. Well, maybe we were burning the past again, and what that we've burned what history really was. Again, it's his story is literally the word. There's a lot in words, and the fact that it's his story pretty much is telling you that it's whatever somebody. I mean, history was written by the victor is another very very famous saying, to be honest, because it's true. History was written by the victor. So we don't really know history, to be honest. We know bits of it, which might be true, but ultimately we don't really know history correctly. So again, this whole Tartaria thing, has something been wiped from the records? And did they build the Great Wall of China and not China? And it's facing China, and is why would China build a wall facing themselves to keep themselves out and defend it? It doesn't make any sense. Do you know what I mean? It was pretty much that alone suggests somebody else built it to keep the fucking Chinese out of it somewhere else. So, and the Chinese have just accepted that they built that for the world's narrative. So, again, the powers that be and all these governments, they all know what the fuck's going on here. The people will know. Do you know what I mean? This history has been covered up in many ways, but for what purpose? I mean, there's another crack that the 1,000 years has been added to the calendar. I'm not quite sure about that, to be honest, but it has. There is some evidence for it, but again, the ultimate thing is you can't really deny it because we weren't here. Like we weren't here. We don't know. We only know really what the last 200 years or 100 and odd years where our grandparents have been alive, and you can tell you what the fuck happened, and if you know what I mean, maybe 100 and odd years. But after that, we haven't got a fucking clue because we weren't here, and nobody that was is still here to tell us. And again, it's just if well, it's his story. It's what we get told by an official source in many ways. So again, babies being delivered. What the hell's going on here? And what's this whole Cabbage Patch Kids fucking scenario?
According to the narrative. Then there are the incubators of 1900s. It's difficult to keep premature babies alive with modern technology, yet they were doing this back in 1835 in Europe. They turned this into a sideshow, where at the world fairs they would show off these child hatcheries, these incubators of live children, and for some reason, the royals would come and witness these events. So
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back. I have watched another video on this, and this was at the World Fairs that I mentioned in another video, and how elaborate the World Fairs were in their design. There's a lot more goes on at these world fairs, what was actually being shown there, and what was going on with many exhibits, and what was being told to the people. And people were in many ways being told history at the world fairs, like preached history to, and a version of events in many different exhibits. Again, I'll maybe bring a video forth that talks very much about the details of what was going on in the world fairs, and a lot of that is suspicious, and it's kind of like it was a way of sort of programming society with a narrative long before TV and radio existed. And how do you program society? With a version of events. You have to gather them all together, and they've done it, it seems, at these world fairs, and told people history in many ways, and or their version of history as we know it today. So, but also this was going on with incubators and premature babies, which in the documentary that I watched about it, that they were apparently taken from hospitals, the premature babies, they were not cloned, was the tale behind it. But again, they're keeping premature babies alive here. In the 1800s, in incubators, a technology you wouldn't have thought was around at the time, but it was. A lot of technology has been covered up, to be honest. We had electric cars fucking 100 and odd years ago, and that kind of went by the by for petrol, and now we brought electric cars back again. But electric cars existed before petrol cars did in its inception, but we turned them all down for the convenience of the gasoline, because people couldn't be charging them back then either. So electric cars are nothing new at all. We've actually had electric cars before we had gasoline cars. So baby incubators at the fairs, this is definitely a fact. Here's all the pictures of it. I will bring another video forth that goes a lot into it in a lot more detail, and what was going on at the fairs. But all these world fairs connecting into this as well. Again, mentioned the world fairs, this whole Tartaria fucking notion of an advanced technology. Here we see incubators for babies in the 1800s. Where did we get this technology? Is it linked to this whole scenario? I don't know yet again, but it's just interesting.
These events. So there's this genetic manipulation cloning idea, in which these babies are actually being grown in some sort of pods. Perhaps the symbolism of the Cabbage Patch mirrors that process. Humans do.
But again, sorry to interrupt, but links completely into the film The Matrix, and obviously growing babies as a battery in effect on the Matrix, but babies are grown in pods and depicted in a film, again, The Matrix. So is there something in this? Again, you've been shown that in a sense. Again, where are these pods? What are these pods? But there's actually a very weird film about Cabbage Patch Kids where the babies are grown in cabbage. I'll bring this film forth. A video about the film in another video. It's very strange indeed. Canadian film about the Cabbage Patch Kids. It's all very mental. It's all very mental, mind-twisting stuff, to be honest, but well, very interesting at the same time. So, this notion of growing babies in something, again, in what? I do not know.
Resemble plants in the way that we're connected to a stem in our fetal state, and our whole lives are spent ripening. In the fetal abduction theory, we typically see a nurse-looking woman with either a fishing hook or a fishing net pulling a child out of the water. Perhaps the hook and net represent medical tools and the water amniotic fluid. In either scenario, it would make sense that these babies have to end up in incubators or hatcheries. And it begs the question, how did all these premature babies get here? If women back in, these days were having babies prematurely, why in such large numbers? And the babies all being babies, they'd have to have traveled there somehow within a short period of time. What are the chances that so many premature babies were driven from wherever their mothers were to these incubators all in time? And why do they charge people to view them, as if this was some sort of exhibition or sideshow, and not a pressing matter of life and death? For centuries, the stork has been thought of as a symbol for new beginnings and family lineage. The idea that this creature represents life-giving events also makes sense because storks are monogamous creatures. and they mate only once every year with their partners that they've chosen beforehand, choosing mates based solely on personality instead of looks, like many other birds. Now we've got kids inside a train. Orphan trains. Why so many orphans? Were these orphans taken from their families? Were they trained to instruct a new generation of genetically created babies? Or were they womb-napped babies? And we've got kids growing on trees, kids being carried by storks. The Greek goddess Hera and her Roman counterpart Juno also favor the stork. And I'm sure you guys remember that quirky little teen pregnancy movie from the 2000s. And I suspect that Artemis of Ephesus is an ancient fertility symbol used by the elite to signify their ability to reseed a new population. So we've got hooks removing babies, kids in the water with a woman holding a net or fishing rod. Is the water the amniotic fluid, pulling children from the wombs of their mothers perhaps? Could that be why there are so many premature babies? Or are they genetically manipulated? Cloning is not impossible. Just look at Miracle Millie. I think that the movie Aeon Flux is a great example. Hollywood is definitely alluding to this reality of artificial repopulation.
So as well, there's a big crack about like celebrities being cloned, like God, fucking Britney Spears is one. Fucking used to be married to Kardashian. Can't remember his name off the top of my head. That's another one. Eminem's been mentioned before. There's loads, to be honest. There's loads of videos online about celebrity cloning and all this kind of thing. I don't know if it's true, to be honest, but it's just a thing that's out there. Clonings, and again, if like I mean, Avril Lavigne's another one, or she was replaced and she died. It's another crack, or another conspiracy, if you want to call it that. So, this is the initial intro into Cabbage Patch Kids and what the hell's this crack with Cabbage Patch Kids and all these postcards and incubators and premature babies and orphan trains and mental asylum. And all these things, how do they all link together? And what the hell's going on? So I'll play the end of this video, but this is just, again, the plot will thicken with later videos, so although it may sound like absolute complete nonsense initially, the plot will definitely thicken.
The Cabbage Patch Kids sort of reminds me of those medieval occult books that depict humans growing from roots in the grounds or mandrakes, which are known to have occult properties for making one go insane.
Babies are also ready to join their elite clubs, and they're even given top hats. Technology, clothes, and empty cities? Babies floating in on boats, all signifying children being born or found and then taken by the mother, the one with the basket. Yet, this is a figure that represents the government's function as a mother, a corporate operation of generating foundlings in order to fill their newly emptied and burned cities with new humans. Whoever made these postcards are trying to tell us something very dark about the world we live in, as if it's humorous.
Yeah, I mean, one option is, again, I've mentioned this before, if we had a pole shift again and the literal pole shifted, and it happened very, very quickly, the Earth would go through a very, very turbulent time for a while. Initially, as the whole planet readjusted, one theory is that the water of the Earth wouldn't move as much as the planet would, and it would in fact drag water right across the Earth, killing most people, to be honest. So it should a pole shift be that would also dump a lot of mud everywhere. Is the other side of a pole shift, and the water being dragged across the Earth, it would leave a lot of mud and debris all over the ground, again into the mud flood, into digging buildings up and all this kind of crack. How it could be a possibility, and we would have possible systematic pole shifts on Earth, but maybe they don't happen quite as often as we believe. Again, I don't know, but just a possible theory on how you could have a mud flood, how you could kill a lot of people and have to reseed the Earth because a lot of people died in some sort of cataclysm, Why you would cover it up? Possibly because it happens quite often. You don't want to scare people. What's the point of doing stuff? And if we're all going to get wiped out, I don't know. Yet again, and just possible theories, but this whole Cabbage Patch Kids thing, it's again. I'll bring more videos. I'll name this part one. And yeah, the plot will thicken. There's more videos about the Cabbage Patch Kids, world fairs, orphan trains, and all these kind of things come together, and more people expose what they know and what they've heard, and all these kind of things. So, so as I say, the plot will thicken with more Cabbage Patch Kids videos. Again, Tartaria, all these kind of things, all linking into some sort of weird something's happened. And again, I don't know. Just it's out there. I'm investigating it, the theory, but there is some things that are a bit dodgy. But the whole theory in itself is very very mental, to be honest. Again, now we were cloning babies in these times, but um, was there a civilization or a country that got completely wiped out that was slightly more advanced than the rest of us, and they had that technology and we used it? Is it possible with the theory? I don't know. I don't know, to be honest. Again, I'll be back with more Cabbage Patch Kids videos, and the plot will thicken. I'll leave it there. Peace.